On one of your lives, you mentioned Robski may not like you. Can you touch on that? Real easy story. People ask me all the time, like, Robski this, Robski that. When are we going to get a Robski crossover or collaboration? Probably is never going to happen, and it's not because of me. Today, we are doing our very first question and answer from viewers submitted questions on Instagram and on a YouTube poll. Never done one before, so I put my feelers out there and you guys gave me a ton of questions, so let's go ahead and get all of those answered now. But before we do that, if you want to support this channel in any way, shape, or form, to keep the Leviathan paid ad reads away, go buy thirdpinthreads.com. That is a merch brand that I personally co-own, and that's the best way to support this channel. We have a lot of really cool AK merch, hats, beanies, hoodies, t-shirts, all kinds of cool stuff. Event t-shirts from all the different events that we do, and it's really cool that you're actually getting something for your money instead of like Patreon or something like that. So anyway, that's the best way to support us. All right, back to the video. Okay, let's go ahead and start reading some questions from Instagram. Flood Munitions. Favorite method to mount flashlights to wood furniture AK rifle, so like a standard AK. I have found that the CDM Gear barrel clamp mount is my absolute favorite. It retains the cleaning rod, and you don't have to do any modifications. You don't have to have any aftermarket stuff at all. No 1913, nothing. So that's my favorite. Fit and Fire asks, what have been the biggest rewards and challenges when you and Kyber Customs put on the Kalash Bash Texas event? What did you have to do to get it started? What things did you look for preparing for next year? How easy is it to get sponsors? I'll try to answer that as quickly as possible. Biggest rewards, just that it happens safely and everyone comes out and has a good time. That's the biggest reward from it because it is a lot of work. To get started, we had to have all the right tools. Tony from Kyber Customs, myself, really did a lot of promoting because we already had pretty large Instagram pages way back in the day. And we were already doing some small gatherings, which eventually snowballed into bigger gatherings. We ended up meeting Mike and Lan from Dissident Arms that were already putting on competitions and building competition AKs. We all became pretty good friends and then decided to do kind of what we were already doing with a big match attached to it. So that's kind of how Kalash Bash was born. Gathering sponsors is honestly early one of the hardest things. All I can tell you is just really think about how to treat the sponsors right, keep them covered, keep them out of the sun, provide tables, provide chairs, and just be as accommodating as possible, and just really try to make them get their money's worth out of the event, and try to put asses in the seats for them. That's pretty much it. Brandon Castro says, what's your favorite style of stage to shoot? High round count or high level of difficulty? Ooh, honestly, I think I prefer high round count like hoser stages, but I do like the difficult stages as well. But I really like to try to shoot as much as fast as possible on a stage. That's always kind of been my preferred taste. Zach Schaefer asks, standing or sitting? Now he is referring to how do I wipe my butt? I'm not an animal, so I wipe from a seated position. Gorillas in the Mist asks, how often do you dry fire, or are you just the Allen inversion of running AKs and never practice and never messes up? I dry fire a lot, not as much as I did several years ago when I was a little bit younger and didn't have a whole lot of matches under my belt, but I still do. So if I have a match coming up, I'll definitely put all my gear on with the gun that I've selected, and I will do several dry fire reloads and a bunch of stuff in the living room to kind of get back up to speed. This is a good question from Comblock Customs. Clayco, what is the average AK shooter in 2024? What is he or she into? It's interesting to see who is into AKs now versus even 10 years ago. I think the culture has changed dramatically in the last 10 years. I just had a conversation about this yesterday with my buddy Aiden Arendis. I think 10 years ago, AKs were, I don't know, you just had a certain type of person buying them. They were a lot cheaper. The ammo was way cheaper. I think you had a lot of older guys into it. But I think now the biggest difference is it's a very young crowd getting into AKs now. Very, very young crowd. I think the crowd now, more often than not, has a very open mind about American AKs. I'm not saying I do or that you should, but because of the price, you kind of have to have an open mind about American AKs. So a very young audience buying American AKs versus 10 years ago, nobody was touching American AKs. Not that there really were even any to choose from. So I think that's a big difference. And I think the current AK enthusiast, the new AK enthusiast, is much more open-minded to modifying or upgrading AKs, and they're totally open-minded about different calibers. Just Ben Man asks, what is your favorite memory involving the AK community? That's a tough one. I'm just going to try to shoot from the hip, but there are a ton. I think one of my favorite memories ever was Kalash Bash 19, the very first one. It was all wrapped up and done. I remember Brandon Herrera was out there with his crew. This was before he was like super famous. And it was just myself, Tony, our girlfriends at the time, who now I'm married to, and like, you know, Tufu and Ashley and just a handful of like our close friends at the time. We were all sitting in an RV, just like drinking some beers, kind of reminiscing about the event. And we were listening to my buddy Possum talk about his butt tattoo that he got at Kalash Bash that year. And we were just dying in the RV while he was telling us how his wife found out that he got a butt tattoo to win an AK at the very first Kalash Bash. Probably one of my favorite memories of all time. Schaefer Zach asks another question. Favorite piece of AK gear / parts from the last year? Gear-wise, I would say right now, the Resilient Putnik, if we're going to call suppressors gear, I think is the coolest freaking thing to come out for an AK in the last year. I would say some of the most exciting parts to come out are something that Zach's making himself, making crank parts. And they're good stuff, and guys are getting really good crank kits put together from the Zach Schaefer crank parts. So that's probably been some of the most exciting parts to come out in the last year. Shameless plug, Zach. Spiderfly says, let's talk about butt wiping techniques. We touched on that a little bit earlier. I wipe from a seated position, slightly leaning with my dominant hand, front to back, not back to front. And if it's an absolute, like, just total shit show, no pun intended, hop in the shower and do a waffle stomp. Midwest Savage asks, what should one focus on for competition? Speed or accuracy? I always tell people, go as fast as you can still be accurate. A small thing about that question is it depends on penalties. Some matches, the penalties will be so small, it's actually better to just speed through. And if you get a couple of penalties, it's not a big deal, because when you compare scores later, if you run the course 20 seconds faster than everyone else and penalties are like 1 or 2 seconds, it doesn't really matter. You've got a lot of room there before penalties catch up with you. Others, where penalties are like 10, 20, 30 seconds, that's when it's on you to understand the penalties, pump the brakes, be more accurate, because those types of matches, the people that shoot clean win. Browncoat BDH says, pre-match rituals, what do you do to ensure starting off on the right foot before shooting a match? Could be for KB, could be for a local match in which you participate in. I don't change my underwear, and I don't wash my socks. If I do that, I'll absolutely shoot as good, if not better, than I did the last time. So that's pretty much it. So find what ritual works for you and don't deviate from it. Tingly Gunhole asks, most underrated builder and underrated factory / company making AKs. Let's get positive. I don't know, I would say maybe like Mario at SOF. I wish more people knew about him because he's a really good builder. So not that he's underrated, I just don't think enough people know about him. And another guy that's not underrated, but 10 years from now we'll look back and go, holy crap. There's 2 guys that come to mind. Daniel Fisher at Halcyon Defense. I wish more people knew of him. I know a lot of the OGs do, but he has to be one of the baddest gunsmiths on the planet right now. And Zach Schaefer, but a lot of people know who he is. He builds for Brandon Herrera. Those 3 guys right now, I feel like in the next few years, everyone's going to know who they are. They're that good. So as of right now, might be a little underrated. Most underrated company, I think, is Zastava. They get just as much hate as they do love. Why, I don't know. I've bought so many of their AKs, all different shapes and sizes and calibers, and they've always over-delivered based on the money that I'm paying. So I would have to say Zastava. Willie Nugs asks, let's talk cigars. Which have been more enjoyable as of late? The one I'm smoking all the time right now is a Metropolitan. There's a brand called Metropolitan. It's a sister company of Davidoff. They're like half the price, and to me, almost just as good. They've got a little sweet cap on them, but the rest of the cigar is not sweetened. Metropolitan Host, that's what it's called. That's my current daily smoke. Joe Zero Cosplay asks, what was your initial idea to create the character Ivan? Also, thoughts on running iron sights for a comp? We've already talked about irons. As far as Ivan, That was really just something that came together naturally. We needed something to promote the very first Kalash Bash. So I literally put on a balaclava. Because I kind of liked the whole North Hollywood bank heist story, and they had balaclavas with like, one of them had it with like the single slit in the masks. So I thought that was cool to LARP as those guys, and I had a vintage set of Puma jumpsuits from the early 90s, late 80s. They were like pink and purple and like baby blue, and I thought that looked hilarious with a balaclava with some gloves and some combat boots, and I carried a big bag of money and I was shooting up stages with an AK, and I thought that would be a really cool character to promote Kalash Bash. That's kind of how that happened. It was me like kind of being really enthralled with the whole North Hollywood bank heist thing and how those guys dressed when they robbed the bank, and adding a little more AK to it. Christopher Revel asks, have you named your Zenitco SLR 106 yet? That's the one with all the green furniture on it that every time I film it, I'm like, I gotta name this thing. He says, if you have not, the green bastard from Parts Unknown. To answer your question, no, I haven't named it, but that's the best name I've thought of so far. I'm a huge Trailer Park Boys fan, and the Green Bastard from Parts Unknown would be an amazing name, so I think that's going to be the name. Kalashnikov Cowboy asks, how do I take care of the peening on my bolt carrier? I love the ALG triggers, but they keep beating the heck out of my bolt carriers. If you mean the tang that resets your trigger, dude, it's like never really going to be that big a deal where it's going to cause problems. Like, it's going to have to peen out a lot. Typically, they stop before it gets too crazy, but it's not a big deal. Like, if the little wings on the side of the carrier get too bad, you can just hit it with a file. It's kind of a non-issue, honestly. So don't worry about it. Tyler82493 asks, what's it like being the Prince of Kalash Bash, Texas? It ain't that at all. It's what's it like being the guy where all the buck stops and you have to deal with all the problems and put out all the fires of hosting an event. That's honestly what it feels like. I wish someone else would be that guy at Kalash Bash so I could enjoy it a little bit more. I do love working the microphone and like hyping up the prize ceremony and hyping up vendors, and that's like my favorite part. I like being the Flavor Flav of Kalash Bash. That part's fun. Burning Powder Kicking Brass asks, what is your favorite 7.62 rifle? My Draco. It's also my favorite AK. Since it's 7.62, that's my favorite rifle. Love it. Prescott Gun Club. What is the best caliber butt to wipe clay? I don't know. I think most of us have about like a 10 millimeter hole, so that's probably pretty standard. Really Moist Pickle. Who would win in a fight between Creed versus Nickelback? Creed. Just Dizzy. Tacos or burgers? Tacos. Street tacos. Unprofessional Gun Opinions. Are you doing a Lethal Weapons Texas match next year? This was asked probably about a dozen times, and I got asked about it a bunch at KB, so we kind of decided to not do it again, but after KB, we all kind of were feeling good, so we decided to have a meeting to decide if we're going to do Lethal Weapons again, what does that look like? So it may happen this year. You have to go follow Lethal Weapons on Facebook and Instagram. That's when we announce it, if it happens. Stoli47. Is it worth getting into 7.62 by 39 in 2024? I'm second guessing buying another rifle in this caliber. I think the ammo is still cheap enough. It's worth it. Hopefully it doesn't go up anymore. But the thing is, more 7.62 is going to come in, and American companies will start making it way before 5.45. So I wouldn't give up on 7.62 by 39 anytime soon. The Traveler. Have you ever shot a Molot Vepr AK? I purchased one before the Russian arms ban in 2017. Great rifle. Yeah, I used to have one in 308, and we have a full auto 545 Molot Vepr 74 RPK, and they're amazing. Hellbent Brian. KNS and baffled suppressor versus no KNS and flow-through can. Honestly, I think they both feel pretty good. Like, that Putnick's been really good on certain AKs. After putting it on like longer barrels, I don't really feel that recoil relief that I was feeling on the shorter barrels with the Putnick. So I still think a well-tuned gas piston on a more conventional can will shoot softer than a flow-through can. Richie Burr. With the exception of Zastava, is it safe to conclude the imported AKs all have low quality fit and finish compared to domestic rifles? And if so, what are the better or more consistent quality imported AK rifles and pistols? Is quality more brand specific or country of origin specific? Thanks. I would say, yeah, it is a bit specific. Like, for instance, a lot of Romanian AKs that come in are good quality. They're going to last a long time, but Those are the ones where you're going to see like the crooked sights, just not a huge amount of attention to detail that some other countries get it. For instance, if you were to compare like Romanian AKs to Polish AKs from like FB or WBP, but specifically FB, nobody, in my opinion, comes close to the consistency, the straightness, the attention to detail that FB Rodham puts into their AKs compared to like any other import. The finish, the engravings, how straight everything is. You could put five of them on the table, and like you could not tell them apart. They're all so spot on, perfect. The Poles do it better than anyone else, in my opinion. Tumbleweed Todd, do I need another AK? Yes, you need another AK. Another question from Stoli47. Why haven't we seen a video on WBP rifles from you yet? Because the majority of guns that I film, I'm buying or borrowing. So if I can't afford to buy every single gun for a review, which I cannot, I have to borrow it. So I haven't bought it, and no one's offered to lend it just yet, but it will happen. Summers A11. I'd like to see your thought process on stage plan. I'm always interested in what top placers are seeking/doing different. Man, hard to say. Every stage is so different, but you should definitely take the time to figure out how you can game a stage. Little things they didn't put in the rules, because all I can tell you is if they didn't put it in the rules, if they don't say you can't do something, just assume you are allowed to do something. So if you can really get creative on a stage and figure out how to not break the rules, but do something to shave off a few seconds that no one else is thinking of, doesn't even really mean that you're shooting faster or better. Maybe you just think, well, I'll go around that corner when everyone's going around that corner. And I think just that, because they didn't say I couldn't, will shave off a couple of times. It's just that. Think about how to game the stage. That's honestly how you save time, by literally just thinking differently. Trucks91. I'm asking about Creed. What's your album? Human Clay. Duh. American Venom 28. Is there a Wasser 10 equivalent of a 5.56 AK, i.e. reliable but won't break the bank? Thank you. I think a lot of people would say the WBP Fox rifles. I just don't. It's hard for me to say yes or no because I haven't shot one. I've literally never shot one more than like 30 rounds. But, if those things can be had for like 11 or 12, maybe that's the new 5.56 Wasser. Red Zapped. What would be the preferred magazine for a blunt melee weapon? Surplus steel. George Rubright. Besides the almighty glove, what handles heat the best? Polymer, wood, or metal? Certainly not metal. Honestly, dude, I think wood. Wood bucks the heat really good. Like nice surplus laminate wood really bucks heat surprisingly well. Solomon C831. When shooting an AK, is it best to hold the rifle by the magazine or by the handguard? He prefaces this by saying, I will still hold it by the magazine because that's how the Ruskies do it. Yeah, I think both have their place. I've trained where they told us to only magwell grip during certain ways of shooting, and then, there's a handguard there for a reason, and holding the handguard for other ways of shooting. If I'm shooting like super like defensively, I find myself magwell gripping a lot for straight up speed and shooting like more of an American way, which is honestly just better. Definitely holding the grip. Shoot with JB. I got into AKs for cheap ammo and being able to shoot and train more. Is PSA ammo going to be worth its weight? Will ammo prices come down? Should I go with a NATO AK or go with something designed around 5.56 like a Galil or a Bren? Well, PSA is definitely going to make it. Honestly, it doesn't matter how good that ammo is. If it's cheap, people will buy it hand over fist. There's no questions about it. That's why people got into AKs. Cheap ammo. Doesn't matter if the ammo's that great. If it's cheap, people will keep buying it. As far as 5.56 AKs, dude, there's so many good ones to choose from. I don't think you have to buy something specific for it, like a Galil or a Bren. I think there's so many good 5.56 AK options. I don't know of many bad ones, honestly. Liberty Hammer. I'd love to know your thoughts on the collector AKs and how stuff like Norinco's went from being considered trash to gold. It's just a lack of information. Back then, there was no internet, and it was very easy for rumors like Chinese AKs are pieces of crap and, anything made in China is a piece of crap, for that to spread like wildfire among gun shops and then FUD lore, and it becomes, reality. Jim Fuller's talked about this a lot back in the day. Chinese AKs were just trashed on. Anything Chinese was just thought to be crap. We know now that a lot of those Chinese AKs were really good, and that a lot of that wasn't really founded in reality. It just wasn't. I think when people get smarter, the internet offers more things to read. There's more info out there. We start to learn, like, oh, there's always been really high quality AKs in this country. Once that happens, and certainly once they're banned and they don't become available, it's the perfect storm for them to be extremely expensive collector grade AKs now. Only Fins 39. What are the chances you could do another ALG polishing video? Honestly, kind of slim. YouTube's a different animal now. Anything that even looks like you're modifying a gun or parts on a gun, dude, you could get a strike. They could shut your channel down for that. I'm just not so sure it's worth it, and it just sucks that it's that way. Even if you don't want to monetize the video, just showing that on YouTube is super risky now. So it's a huge bummer, man. I miss the old days of YouTube big time. Monty 3449. Is there anything in the works for future furniture/mounting solutions you want to hint at? Lately, I've been enjoying smaller companies incorporating wood/M-LOK furniture for lights and lasers. Yeah, like Warsaw Wood. I think they do a lot of stuff like that. JMac just announced their new rail dust cover, which is super cool. Bar War USA just announced all their Zenit clone stuff. They've got like a B33 clone. They've got the Sport Rail clones. That stuff's super cool, but everyone knows about it. Nothing comes to mind as far as like something I could hint at right now. Everything I know about's already been announced. Dane says, what's up with ammo prices? Any news on 545 being more available in the future? Hopefully not costing an arm and the leg? Nah. I think 545 is not looking good for being a viable caliber anytime soon. And as far as 545 goes, I don't see anyone, and I wouldn't even recommend buying your first 545 gun right now if you don't already have a lot of ammo tucked away. Horrible time to get into that caliber. Kobe with AK. I see Waffle Stomp slaps. Wins the t-shirts and hats. I don't know if we'll do a t-shirt and hat, but we definitely have Waffle Stomp stickers. Sexy 4 Alexi, 556 and 545, and 556 or 545, and what barrel links. 556 AKs. I used to do a lot of pin and welds, but now I like to keep them at 16 inches. I just think the round really needs that barrel length. If I'm going to be using it as like a long-range competition gun, 300 yards and in, 14.5 is a good barrel length. 5.45, it doesn't really suffer much from short barrels, so freaking 8-inch crink, dude. Cody, processor tattoos. What got you so into the AK platform? I would say my dad and my uncle had cool stuff back then, and one day when I was very young, they bought me a 308 Vepr with the butthole stock. I took it hog hunting and thought it was the coolest thing ever. But what really hammered it home, when I was in high school, I think I might have been like a freshman, my Christmas present was a Wasser 10 with the laminate stock set with a matching bayonet and a green canvas sling. And I thought it was just the coolest gun that I cannot believe I was allowed to have. And that's what really did it. I just thought it was so more special and cool than like AR-15s because I'd always been around that stuff. And here's this cool AK that we had like never had in the house. Only my, crazy uncle that had all the cool guns had an AK or two. No one I knew my age had an AK, never shot one. That Wasser is what really did it. AK Misfit 80. When you started your YouTube channel, did it take you a while getting comfortable speaking on camera or did it come naturally? Nah, dude. It's, man, it's so bad. Some of those early videos, I just had to take them down. Like, it's super cringeworthy stuff. I don't think it comes naturally to a lot of people. Some people it does. It did not me. Even today, I can't watch myself on camera. It's just total cringe. But I think with time, you get a little more comfortable with not being so self-conscious the whole time. And it's just like, be yourself on camera, talk about what you came to talk about, and do your thing. Kung Fukin 47. If you could only upgrade one thing on an AK, what would it be and why? Also, the butt wiping technique interests me as well. One thing. Dude, I want to say trigger, I want to say muzzle brake, but one thing and one thing only, I would say a decent red dot. And that goes for any gun. A simple red dot is a game changer on any gun. So I would say put a little red dot on it. Savage Henry 307. I want to start shooting competition. However, I don't know how to get in touch with anyone in my area that does it. How would I go about finding the competitive shooters in my community and getting started based on their guidance? Make an account on PracticeScore.com. Put your zip code in. It will tell you about all the matches going on in your area. If those matches use PracticeScore, which like 99% of them do. If you don't know anyone, I don't know how you're going to find anyone. other than going to a match. That's literally what happened to me, dude. Heard about a match from a YouTube video, went and shot it, met a dude that was local to me, and he's like, hey, I shoot a match all the time. Went to his match, met all these other dudes that told me about all these other matches. So if you can just find about one, go there and the rest will follow. Hinky Millions, polishing AK trigger surfaces at home, sinful or sanctified? Sanctified, just don't overdo it because you can make them really unsafe. If you do all the sear surfaces, I typically only do the hammer face. The Kalashnikov Collector, this is a tough one. What's one AK part or piece of gear that you wish a company was making? Oh man, that one's tough. Just about, I mean, there's companies that make things I never even would have thought about, like that I needed, and then I see it and I'm like, gotta have it. I don't know. Maybe some more like Zenit clone stuff for like Yugo pattern AKs. That'd be kind of cool. You got dumped. How do you find reliable sources on the history of imports? There's only one, and his name is Mishiko on YouTube. OK Neethum 14. We all know you got a thing for AKs. What's your preferred handgun or pistola? I'm the first to tell you, I'm not a pistol guy. I don't get really excited about pistols. I don't watch a lot of pistol content on YouTube. I don't get really juiced up about carry pistols. I've got one. It's a Glock 43. And I've got a competition pistol I've been shooting for years. It's a Rex Alpha, and right now I'm shooting a Jericho, but I don't get super excited about pistols, so I'm just the worst person to ask. Jesse Yarovoy, what kind of lawnmower are you using and brand of weed whacker? As a landscaper, I will be judging you on this. I have a Briggs & Stratton lawnmower, push mower, not self-propelled, and I have a Stihl, kind of like an entry model Stihl weed whacker. That's what I use. Loyal 9 Patriots. Do you recommend a squatty potty? Dude, I have 2 squatty potties. Absolutely. Pope Mobile 12. Honestly, though, out of every AK, which one is your favorite mounting solution? Ultimax, side mount, dust cover, etc. Man, I've tried them all. And I gotta say, the side mount with like an RS Regulate mount is still, I just think, the most easy way to put a dot on your AK. It's easy to change it up. You can have multiples for the same AK. I change optics so much. It's so easy with an RS Regulate mount and just using the rail if you have one. Rail dust covers take a lot of work, and you know the SaberWorks mounts take a lot of work and time and money. Ultimax, they're also nice. I would put Ultimax probably like third on that list. Just because it's, it's a barrel clamp. I just think the RS Regulate mount on the side rail is, it's the best. It just is. King Dave Wan, dumb question, but can you explain third pin? I'm assuming you mean Third Pin Threads, the merch brand. That. It's a play on a full auto AK and a full auto M16. You know how your AK, your semi-auto AK has 2 pins that hold your trigger components in? Those are called axis pins. Full auto AKs use a third axis pin. It's called the third pin, the very naughty pin. So the third pin on an AK means it goes full turbo, just like third pin on an AR, just over your safety selector, is for full auto variants. So third pin, that's what that means. It's the naughty pin. So we named a merch brand after it. Mad Dog 0606, any experience with the Definitive Arms DAG 13 adjustable gas block? Yes, not my favorite. For a big reason. All of the adjustable gas blocks will carbon lock over time. That's why if you look at like Daewoo's, if you look at Sig 550s, a lot of different gas blocks give you somewhere on there to get a little leverage, even if it's like a punch to roll it over, a bullet tip, a big freaking twisty thing where you can get your hands on there. They carbon lock, so you have to be able to put leverage on them to break them loose when you're tuning your gas. Theirs doesn't really give you that. And when they carbon lock, they are so freaking hard to break loose without, maybe even putting a tool on it. So for that reason, they're very well made. They're very good to look at. But when they carbon lock, they are a son of a bitch. And that's literally every person I know that has one, that's been their biggest complaint. Pro Tato. If you could only keep one AK out of your entire collection, which would it be? I always say my Draco is my absolute favorite, and I think it is, but the one AK that I felt so like just right time, right place, had the money, the whole situation of how I got it was crazy because it was a viewer that helped me out finding it. I think my Gordon Tech K101, my 5.56 Bulgarian milled kit build with the factory barrel, is probably one of the most special AKs that I own. And the whole way that I got it, you have to watch the video. I have a video that says I finally like found my dream AK. Go watch that. It's a crazy story. Because of that, I think that's the one I would keep. It's just so freaking special and crazy that I even got it. So that's what it is. Punch In and Out Gang. What is the POV camera you use in your video? They are Ray-Ban Meta sunglasses. 922R is dumb. What is one rifle slash company slash brand you still wish was imported into the US? I mean, the freaking Cigars, I think, would be everyone's number one choice. Having the Vepers and Cigars come back, that's an easy one. So let's make this the last Instagram question for now, and then we'll move over and get some YouTube questions. Marky Mids. Clay, my question is, do you have any other advice for people who want to start making AK or other 2A related content on YouTube? I have ideas for videos, but I'm unsavvy on the process of scripting, recording, and editing. Basically, if you could shed some light into what goes on into the production of one of your uploads, I would really appreciate any insight on how to turn one of your video ideas into reality, because your production quality is solid and I always look forward to your videos on my feed. There's so many people out there doing it way better than I could ever hope to do it. The little bit I can tell you is, as far as YouTube goes, YouTube seems to reward consistency. If you can consistently bring something to the table weekly, bi-weekly, whatever, but if it's like post at the same time, I typically post every Sunday at the same time. People eventually will learn to expect to see something at that time, and they'll be waiting for it. And YouTube seems to like help you out with algorithms if you just stay consistent. As far as filming, it is extremely hard without help. If you don't have someone there holding a camera, it is so hard to just do all this stuff by yourself. Loading up cameras, getting to the range, unloading cameras, setting up cameras, making sure batteries are charged, filming what you came to film, packing it all up, sitting down, finding the time to edit. It takes so much like man hours. I wouldn't be able to do this without my wife constantly holding cameras. So when I see like the big successful YouTube channels, one thing I always notice is they've always got a camera guy. The Granthams, the Admin Results, the Brandon Herreras. They've got a really good camera guy that they seem to be really good friends with that does all the editing so that the guy on camera doesn't have to think about any of it. If you're going to be doing everything yourself, dude, stick to what you know. Film about things you can absolutely speak intelligently about and just stick to that. When you get some help, maybe you can start branching out a little bit, but find a range that will allow you to do some shooting and filming. Not a lot of ranges will allow that. Or just sit and do tabletop reviews. Those are so easy, and they get way more views than typically shooting at the range does. So try some tabletop reviews. You don't need music. You don't need anything like that. Just try to let your personality shine on camera. Don't make yourself out to be someone that you're not. Don't hype yourself up on camera. Just try to be yourself and maybe amplify it by like 10-15%. And that's the best advice I have for you, because that's all I really do. I'll sit down, I make no scripts. There's no script ever. I kind of have an idea of what I want to go film, go to the range, set up the tripod, and just talk. I would say about half of what gets filmed talking-wise never shows up on video, because not everyone's perfect, dude. I stutter, I say the wrong thing, I screw up constantly, and yeah, just what it is. Once you do a few videos and you get them uploaded, you kind of learn that rhythm. It becomes second nature. But who am I? I don't have a very big channel, so I would love for some of the big guys to give me some advice. But hope that helps. And straight from the YouTube comment section, Frank Rizzo, 8117. Can you go over Chromeline versus nitride barrels and your opinions on each? Why would someone get one versus the other? I have 100% found the nitride barrels to be more accurate than the Chromeline barrels. And honestly, dude, I know Chromeline's like a selling point and it makes certain AKs like more expensive. They're really nice to have value-wise, and they can take a beating and they last a long, long time. But nitride barrels for the average shooter will last your lifetime. unless you really plan on putting like 30, 40, 50,000 rounds through that gun, it's probably going to be just fine. And hey, you get a little more accuracy out of it. I think both barrels are great, but I wouldn't care at all at this point. I've got several AKs with nitride barrels and I've never thought about it. And they shoot accurate. Mundo37, just want to say you inspire me. I'm fitting to start taking training more seriously, and I want to shoot in competitions. What are some good drills to run? Man, you got to find a place that allows you to do drills. I think dry fire is probably the ticket. If you can do drills, you can do a lot with like 3 paper targets. You can do musical chairs. You can do Mozambique drills. You can do 1-to-1s. Those are typically the ones I do a lot. Asian 47, when shit hits the fan, what AK are you going to grab? I think I would grab my, now that we've named it the Green Bastard from Parts Unknown, my SLR 106 with all my Zenitco, like my Alpha clone. The ammo's easy to find. It's got tunable gas. It can basically take any type of an optic, and it's set up for a suppressor. So if I just don't lose my mags, I think that would be a really good gun. Bolo 2028. As I recall, you were cutting the tails off of at least some of your ALG disconnectors. Is that still recommended in some cases? And does trigger slap not seem to be an issue? That's really only a problem with stamped arsenals. They can break the disconnector on ALGs because there's a rivet that holds on your trigger guard that's pretty big on the inside of your receiver, and your disconnector slaps it, and it'll actually dent that rivet in until it just breaks your disconnector in half, and then the whole trigger is useless. So I was cutting those tails off, and the majority of AKs don't trigger slap afterwards, but I've had one trigger slap afterwards. So what you can do is file underneath that disconnector, basically making it thinner where it doesn't really come in contact with that rivet as much as hard. You could try that. Jacob Azier, 4674. What's your home defense and EDC? My EDC is a Glock 43 with a +2 mag extension. Our home defense is a Scorpion with a suppressor, a braced Scorpion with like a little dot and a suppressor. That's like our bedside gun. Austin JL5PB. Can you do a video shooting groups with all of your 5.56 AKs with good ammo? So a good buddy of mine, Sully, actually sent me some really nice 77 grain of various brands. And man, I filmed like half the video and the footage just came out so bad. It's not worth putting on YouTube, so I need to redo it. I had the gun there, I had a really nice scope on it, the whole thing, but God, the footage was trash. Getting long range footage for me is some of the hardest to do. I have to have a spotter there with me. That's not always the easiest thing to find. A windy day makes the camera just shake like crazy on the tripod. It's tough. 9-hole reviews. I feel your pain. I know how much time and effort goes into those long-range videos now, believe me. Dakota Tag 5551. As a Canadian, we don't have access to AKs, but we do have Type 81s with a bunch of Chinese surplus ammo. Would be interesting to know your thoughts on both the rifle and the surplus. I think the rifle's super cool. I think Brandon Herrera's like the only dude with a video on one. There might be like 5 in this country, so nobody has experience with them. I know it's like an SKS action mixed with an AK, kind of. And the surplus AK ammo from China, yeah, run it. Here, people collect that stuff. Johnny Jordan, 7650. There is a rumor that PSA/AAC will make 5.45 ammo. Do you think that it's true? Will 5.45 ever come back? Well, they've just proven that they're making 7.62. Like, that's 100% happening, and they keep telling me 5.45's coming. But I think between now and the possibility of that happening whenever that time frame is, if all the interest is gone by that time for 5.45 AKs, why would they even make the ammo? I don't think it's going to happen, honestly. I just don't think the demand's there for it enough for a big company to spend all that money, because that's not a cheap endeavor. If they made it, would I buy it? Absolutely. But even if they do, if it's not priced right, everyone's going to bitch about it, and no one's going to buy it. Just like the ammo coming in, the Azerbaijani stuff from Tele Ammo. It's still so expensive, I'm not buying it. There's no way I'm paying 70 cents a round for 5.45, especially corrosive stuff that has a lot of recoil to it. I'm just not interested. Duality of morons. Is the ZPAP 82, I'm pretty sure you mean 85, worth it? Or should I just get the M90? I would say M90. Tunable gas, has more features. The M85s are cool, but I love the M90. Peter Beavis Lewis, 3670. What would you recommend for a first-time AK buyer, i.e. small budget, medium budget, large budget? Really small budget? Dude, if you can afford a Wasser or an M70, go for it. But that's even like medium budget today. Super small budget, dude. If you can barely spend like $600 on an AK, you don't have a lot of options. There might be some PSAs. I don't even know if they sell them that cheap, but I think you're only really looking at maybe like a Pioneer Arms, maybe a Riley kind of in that price point. Yeah, medium. I don't know, anywhere from like a Wasser to one of the more high-end PSAs, maybe certainly an M70, 100% is Zastava. The WBP, all the Polish stuff, awesome. High-end, big budget. The Arsenal Sam series of guns are great. I love the milled stuff. If you can find like old SLR 107, 104, 106s, like between 2K to 3K, snag one. Or all the boutique stuff, the Meridian stuff. Have something put together by like M13 or SOF or CW. Have one of those medium budget guns upgraded by one of those guys to a big budget gun. Canned Heat, 33. Any whispers on the Zastava M72? I have no idea. I haven't heard a peep about that M72 RPK yet. I've heard nothing. Burma 21. As someone who shoots consistently, how long do AK barrels last? Have you ever shot one out completely to the point of inconsistent point of impact? Dude, no. I've never shot an AK barrel out. I hear people all the time say they've shot out all these AK barrels. The only barrel we've ever shot out was our full auto post-sample 545 Crink. It was a factory SBR from Arsenal that we post-sampled. That gun, 545, probably has, man, 20, 25,000 rounds, maybe 30. It's got a butt ton of ammo through it. And it like just now is, you know, the group's fairly large, but it still shoots great. I would say that's the closest we've got to shooting out a barrel, but they're still rifling in the lands and grooves. I've never shot out a 5.56 barrel. Definitely never shot out a 7.62 barrel. Jackson Fogelman, is a 90-degree gas block worth swapping out for a 45-degree? I don't know why you would care if you had either. I see no benefit from one over the other. 90-degree gas blocks look sexy, but I don't think one feels any different than the other, honestly. Squeaky Cooler, what's your opinion on the Zastava M91? Is it really worth the $3+ grand? Don't know yet, but I'm about to have one for a video, so we'll find out soon. I believe I'll be picking one up here in like 2 or 3 weeks. Tarquin 21723. What are the best furniture and optic mount options for keeping your AK as lightweight as possible? Factory furniture, like wood or plastic, and just, I mean, maybe like an Atero mount, maybe an RS Regulate mount. But, dude, a factory furniture AK is about as light as it gets, especially if you have a 100 series with a triangle folder. That's a super light, handy AK. And, like, use like a little Atero mount. Little tiny little chunk of materials holding on your dot. That's probably about as light as it gets. AC Boogie 7172. How's the M90 been? I'm about to drop mine off with John at M13. Thinking of keeping the threading at 14.1 since I already have a JMac brake for it. Do you remember how short the barrel was cut down to? I cut mine down to 16. Again, 5.56 AKs, I don't really cut them past 16 inches anymore or cut them at all. But it's been great, dude. That thing shot amazing. You ought to watch the video. I shoot it at a Sons of Liberty match a year ago. Not even a year ago. Last November. And it did great. Even had an overall stage win at an AR match with like 200 dudes with that thing. It's handled all the upgrades and high round count very well. Kodamner, pretty sure I read that right. Is ancient, poorly stored, rusty ammo purchased from old dead boomers' estates something you would shoot? Value? Question mark. I keep stumbling upon sketchy stockpiles. It 100% is, and I have been that guy. I have bought a huge pile of poorly stored, rusty, surplus Yugoslavian ammo from an old boomer guy that died, and his neighbor was selling all of the ammo, and it was all rusty. Me and my buddy bought like 6,000 rounds of the stuff, and it all shot great. I shot most of it with an SKS. Ask me about it in a live stream. It's actually kind of a funny story, but absolutely buy it and shoot every bit of it, especially if it's cheap. RRR, JJJ, WWW. Which of your AKs holds the most sentimental value and why? I think, I know of one right now. I'm just trying to think if there's another one. No. Okay, so I have one that is a Polish milled original barrel Type 3 AK-47 that I got from a pawn shop years ago for an amazing price. Beautiful gun, factory furniture, awesome, awesome gun. That I then sold to my uncle when I was young and needed some cash. And I told him, please don't ever sell it. If you ever need to, please ask me first. I'll buy it back. And he literally never shot it once. Sat in his safe for years and years. And I've been trying to get it back from him forever. Like once I got a little bit older and had cash, I've been begging him to sell it back to me. Because it's a nice, valuable AK. So I got married to my beautiful wife, and my dad and my uncle. I go to my dad's house one day, and we're having like this little get together. And my dad says, "Hey, I got you something. It's a wedding gift. It's from me and your uncle, his brother. These are the two guys that got me into AKs and guns and everything else." Brings out this blanket, sets it on the pool table, unrolls it, and it's that freaking Polish Type 3 beautiful AK that I've been trying to get back for years with a Bakelite mag. And my dad's like, "I bought it back from your uncle. He agreed to sell it. He did not want to sell it, but, he let me take it off his hands. I'm paying for it. Here it is, going back to you." And, dude, it choked me up so much. It was just cool that the whole thing kind of came full circle. I need to make a video on it. That's the most sentimental AK. Matt Randazzo, 3289. What's the difference between rifles like an AKM and an AK-103 besides furniture? Do you think those differences matter or are important for an end user? No. Biggest differences, the 103 is going to have a 90-degree gas block. AKM has a 45-degree gas block. They both have stamped receivers. The 103 has a smooth, thicker dust cover. AKM has a thinner ribbed dust cover. Doesn't matter. And the gas block doesn't matter. 103 is going to have a different thread pitch for a 74 style muzzle device. AKM has a 14x1. I think you're going to have more available for the 14x1 thread pitch. Easier gun to own. The 103 has, the biggest thing is the side folding rear trunnion. Lots of cool stock options for that. Honestly, both have huge benefits to owning with aftermarket support. I think the 103 kind of just feels like it's just it's everything you would want on an AKM and more, honestly, dude. It really is. I think the 103 is just way more fun to own with that side folding stock. And even though it has the 24 millimeter, the larger threads, there's so much available for them, it's not that big a deal. But then again, yeah, you can have a really cool laminate stock set on an AKM, and that looks pretty tight. Stirstone, any update on the Krebs M23? Yes, the 5.56 M23 from Krebs will be in my possession very soon. We'll have a video on it, and if it gets here in time, I will shoot it at the AK Masters competition if he can just get it here in time. Rhett to play. If you were starting out collecting today, would you still choose the AK? If so, and why? If it's purely for collecting, I think I would spend a little extra and get into AKs, yes. But if I was at the same age getting into collecting that I was when I got into AKs, like young and poor, would not be able to afford the good stuff. Just wouldn't be able to. There's no way, dude. Honestly, if I was young and didn't have a lot of money and wanted to get into collecting, I would probably buy police trade-in ARs. I've really been struck by how much I look up police trade-in ARs, like old carry handles, and they're so cheap. They've always got history. There's a lot of cool character wear. I feel like that is what I would get into if I was younger and poorer and wanted to start collecting some type of gun. Ivan the Mad Vandal, 8435. Which do you like best, waffles, pancakes, or French toast? Pancakes. Groovy E, what is your favorite camo pattern? M81, baby. James NK6TZ. This is a long one. I'll try to get through it. Let me preface by saying I love my Wasser, but is the AK a novelty platform at this point? And by novelty, I mean, is it really practical for the average person who wants to get into firearms? You can put together a very capable AR right now out of the box. Came out optics, lights, easy, for the price of a bone stock AK that has no mounting capability. When initially purchased it, got to spend quite a lot of money to get an AK to be as optimized and comfortable as an AR. Back in the day, the appeal of the AK was how cheap and reliable it was and how low-cost ammo and mags were easy to find. Now we have the issue of American companies assembling, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we get it. Okay. think the best way to answer this question is, what type of shooting do you do? If you're just looking to have a gun that's going to work, and you can have like one gun and you can't afford much, then, dude, AR-15, easy, duh. Like, I'm not so delusional that I'm saying AKs are the best of the best and you should choose that over everything else. But, if you've already got some stuff and you're not like just totally broke, and I know that's a poor choice of words, but if you just want a different shooting experience and you find ARs a little boring, or you have the money to be a little bit more interested while you're at the range, I think the AK delivers hands down more than just about anything else out there. Like, surplus guns, I think, are low cost, fun ways of shooting. The bolt action just makes it more involved, kind of like the reciprocating charging handle on an AK, rock and lock mags. It's all more involved, more satisfying to shoot when you shoot it well. But as far as price goes, yeah, AKs are 100% more expensive to get into than AR-15s, without a doubt right now. But it's such a wide spectrum. We're talking if you get into decent AKs and you want to upgrade them decently, yeah, it's just 100% more expensive. You either like AKs or you don't, man. If you do, you'll find yourself finding ways to pay for your vice, just like we all do. Doesn't matter what we're into. If AKs are your kink, you'll find a way to pay for it, and the ammo and the upgrades. It's a labor of love. It is not like it was 10 years ago. If you don't have the money for it or just can't, don't stretch yourself too thin. Get into it later when you can. Though AKs will always be there. The imports might not be, but the American stuff will be. Slavic and Scandinavian Girl Lover, it's really his name, asks, are you a one-eye closed or two-eye open shooter? I have a little bit of everything. Like, up close, it's all eyes wide open. For distance, I do find myself closing my weak eye a lot to kind of really focus on iron sights or a dot. Up close, though, definitely two eyes open. I love JDM 0051. I'm a lefty shooter, and I've asked my mother if she was a witch, but she says she wasn't and isn't. I don't know what to do at this point. Is she lying? Yes, she's lying. All left-handed shooters come from witches. They just do. That's fine, but your mother is definitely lying to you. She is a witch. Scotty876, Putnik or Wolverine? Dude, I am a diehard Wolverine fan. I am, but after the last year, the Putnik, I don't know, dude. A little bit shorter, a little bit lighter. It's flow-through. It kills recoil. It looks just as cool as a Wolverine. A Wolverine is kind of a clone of a PBS-1, so the looks are there. The Putnik is the clone of a Zenitco Putnik, and the looks are there. I think shooting feel, the Putnik feels better, so I got to give it to the Putnik right now. Okay, I saved this one for last because it was a little spicy, I guess, but people do ask me this several times a year. HSSV3JT. On one of your lives, you mentioned Robski may not like you. Can you touch on that? Real easy story. People ask me all the time, like, Robski this, Robski that. When are we going to get a Robski crossover or collaboration? Probably is never going to happen, and it's not because of me. But I was a huge Robski fan. Credit where credit is due. Robski is one of the biggest reasons why a lot of people are into AKs because of his channel. I used to binge watch Robski's content all the freaking time, man. I actually knew about Kyber Customs cheese graters because Robski was one of the first guys to ever film them. And that kind of goes into why I'm pretty sure Robski does not like me. Kyber Customs, Tony, the owner of Kyber, is my business partner with Third Pin Threads. We co-own the brand. And he's also one of the four guys, myself included, Mike and Lane and Tony. We all put on Clash Bash together. So we've all been friendly for like 6-7 years at this point. Anyway, loved Robski all these years, and Tony I had met randomly at a gun range. I had a cheese grater on one of my AKs, and we were literally at a random gun range, and Tony walks up and he's like, "Hey man, cool, thanks for your business." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Oh, I run Kyber Customs out of Houston. I make those cheese graters." And I was like, "What?" I'm like, "Oh dude, I bought it because of AKOU." And he's like, "Yeah, he sells my cheese graters on his web store." He's like, "I sell them on AK Files and stuff." So the story goes, Tony made cheese graters and he would sell them on AK Files years ago. And he might sell, I don't know, he was selling like a couple a week and eventually started selling a bunch of them. Well, Robski was like super active on AK Files, reached out, they got to talking, and he started hosting those on his web store and put them in some videos. Tony said, man, like as soon as Robski started showing them on his channel, he's like, I started selling a ton of cheese graters, and then Kyber Customs really got a big boost from that, which was good. One day, Tony and I were doing something at the shop, and he goes, man, he's like, I just had the worst thing happen. And I'm like, what's going on, dude? He said, dude, talking to Robski, and like, I probably should have gotten Tony's permission before I told the story, but damn it, I'm telling it. He said, man, it was kind of a bummer. He's like, I'm talking to Rob on the phone, and he basically said he wanted to start selling the cheese grater on his store for substantially cheaper, or I guess the better way to put that is he wanted a better deal on the cheese grater so that he could have higher margins on his web store. For Tony to do that, it would basically be cutting himself off at the knee because he's got his own web store, and he basically respectively told Robski, like, dude, I can't sell them to you that cheap. I just can't. Like, I gotta eat, man. I gotta host them on my website too, and if they're cheaper on your website, no one will buy them from me. It's just simple math. I wish I could. I can't do that. He says, dude, you know what Robski did? He's like, he ended the conversation and then blocked me on all accounts. He blocked Tony from his Instagram, his Facebook, everything. And he's like, dude, and the biggest bummer was a week later, he started selling the PSA versions, the copies of the cheese grater. So that was a bummer. And as he's telling me that story, he shows me on his phone. He's like, dude, look, even I've been working with this guy for years and even blocked me on all platforms over that. Huge bummer. And I was like, dude, that sucks. I went to pull up AKOU that same day on my phone because I was subscribed to his Instagram, everything, and it's just like not there. And I was like, did he delete his channel? And I'm looking around, and I was like, holy crap, Robski blocked me too because we know each other? It was like the weirdest thing. And yeah, found out by proxy, Robski blocked Tony on everything, and then blocked me on everything because I was associated with it or whatever it was, but that's what it was. And it was one of those, like, don't meet your hero moments. I was like, man, like, I've looked up to Robski for so long, and, still do. Still, he makes great content, he does, but damn, like, that was such a bummer thing to do and kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and ever since then, I just sort of, I'll be honest, like, I don't even watch his videos anymore because it was just like, man, dude didn't even know me. Why would he do that? That's such a... Anyway, we could go on and on, but that's why I'm pretty sure Robski does not like me. Just because of that. I've never spoken a word to him. We've never met each other, never spoke to each other, never crossed paths. Not one time. Never seen him at SHOT Show. Nothing. And I would 100% shake his hand in person if I ever met him. But that definitely happened, and that sucks. So with that, I think we should end today's video. It's already going to be really long. And yeah, I know I didn't get to everyone's question. I'm just trying to keep this video like within an hour, hopefully. So we'll definitely do another one of these. Maybe like a month or two, I'll put out another poll. And if your question didn't get answered, ask it again. And make sure you tell me in the comments, hey, second time asking, so that I know to prioritize those questions. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for taking the time to drop these questions. Hopefully I got to them all for the most part. And yeah, again, go by Third Pin Threads, pick up some merch. Come to Kalash Bash, come to Kalashnikon, AK Masters, all these other AK matches. I go to almost all of them. And maybe we can shoot together and meet at one of those things. But that's all I have for you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.